Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the country, in the world, and whether you're watching live or recorded. You might be watching the replay. It's always on our YouTube channel. And if you open up your IDE on the welcome page towards the right, uh, right, probably looks like that to you because of the camera, is the tab that says Learn. And always, I put the latest webinars in there. The good news is as well, everybody's joining in. We look at them all flood in as we go along. Lots of people from Mexico and San Carlos, and Tim, who's always there from Cedar Park, and like me, we're enjoying the fact it's warming up. It's up to 80 degrees here as well in Dallas, which is fantastic. Terry says it's toasty in San Carlos. Yeah, well, it's toasty in Texas too. So I know not everybody's got that, but I'm sure Hungary is not quite as toasty as it is, and I'm pretty certain that Leonello in southern Switzerland is not reaching anywhere near 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Venezuela might be though. Caracas. Wow, who else we've got? Hungary. The very exotic and wonderful Cardiff. Yakida, my friend. I hope you're doing well. Love Cardiff. Just on the edge of being Welsh myself. My grandfather was a Jones, so there you go. My maternal grandmother was a Williams, so there you go. Greetings from Virginia. Oh, and a very sunny but not so warm Leeds, UK. Sorry about that, Gaza. I'm glad it's sunny, but it is what it is. Mauricio Soto from Costa Rica. Fantastic. You're all joining in today. Sunny Pensacola. Beautiful place. And greetings from Cape Town as well. Yeah, everybody is coming from all over the world today. This is absolutely fantastic. Yasu from Thessaloniki in Greece. Wonderful island. Really beautiful. Good morning, 4 a.m. here in Victoria. Ian, this is the second time I've noticed you can't join at 4 a.m. I don't know whether you can't sleep or you go to bed late or you get up super early, but thank you, my friend. You do know we do record these, right? You don't have to get up at 4 a.m., but I'm really glad you do. It's amazing that you take part in this. And Peter is in Slovakia. Fantastic. Well, today I've got a couple of demos on the subject that we're talking about. Oh, there's more people. Montreal in Canada. I normally get a couple of people from Canada, and then not the regular ones. Greetings from an always sunny Lusaka in Zambia, of course. Beautiful place, Lusaka. Very warm weather as well this time of year. Colin says, I'm a programmer. How would I know what it's like outside in Southampton? Exactly. See that I live in Dallas, right? It's always hot. And this is about as proud as I get, because even though and that's mostly from when I'm driving from one place to another, because the sun we have blacked out windows on our cars, most people, because it's so hot here. And the sunshine, we kind of melt in the sun, don't we? It's a proper software developer should never ever get sunburn, unless they're accidentally sat near a window or something, which means they're not in their own office, because like you live in dungeons, right? If you're a developer, you're in a cave, a man cave or a girl cave somewhere. Hello from Calgary, Alberta. 6 degrees centigrade, 43 Fahrenheit. It's not been 43 here for a while, I can tell you that now. And Giuseppe says hello as well. Hi, good to hear from you. And he also says hi to everyone. So thank you all for coming along and joining me. I really appreciate many of you join regularly at every webinar we do, and it's absolutely fantastic. Paul says the only sunshine I've seen in the past 3 years is through my window. Paul, move to Texas, my friend, and your problems will go away. Trust me, you'll want to avoid the sunshine. And Maui, well, there's a place with sunshine and surf all over the place. Well, I really appreciate everybody joining along. When I first proposed that we would do 30 webinars for 30 uh, 30 years of Delphi, the 30th anniversary of Delphi. Even some of my colleagues at work were a little bit skeptical, like, Are you sure?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, I think we should do it." And I proposed I put up the uh, schedule of what I thought, because I get a lot of you email me, and I really appreciate you emailing me as well, and talking about the topics you would like to see and stuff like that. Hello, Doug, and Anderson. Bon dia, my friend. Uh, and a lot of you email me and say, "Hey, I would be interested in having a webinar about this topic or that topic." And it's been a few years now that I've been doing these, and I've done hundreds, literally hundreds of webinars. I don't know how many hundred, but it's a lot, and certainly thousands and thousands of hours of doing this kind of thing, both on YouTube and the various channels, but also in person as well. I've toured around the country and around the world, and I'll be doing it again this year. I guess that's probably a good time to mention, as we do every time, plug the Delphi Summit in Amsterdam later in June this year. The event of the year, in my opinion. But Delphi Summit, that's if you can make it to Europe, and I know not everybody can, I apologize, but if you can make it to Europe in June, that's the place to be. Come and meet me, hang out. I look like this, I sound like this. I'm not. This is not an act, as I'm sure you've realised by now. And we'll talk about Delphi, and tell me what you think and what stuff you would like to see in the product in the future. So genuinely, if there's some feature that you think you would like to see, or there's something that you think there's a bug that's been in the product for years, why have they not fixed it? And there may be a good reason, or it may not be a good reason, but either way, that's my job, to talk to other developers, particularly Delphi and C++ builder developers, and interface, be the jam or jelly between the two slices of bread, the people that are using the products and the people that are creating the products, and I'm in the middle. And I work with the PM team regularly. I probably talk to them every day, and I have lots of meetings with them and things like that as well. So um, if you can come to the Delphi Summit, you really should. It's fantastic. It's held in a esports arena, and their food they lay on is fantastic as well. I'm biased because people regularly feed me at events anyway, but yeah, regular reports to webinar from Zagreb in Croatia. Yes. And you know what? If you're doing a user event around the world and it's not practical for me to come, because I can't go to all of them, and flying and visiting in person is actually pretty inefficient. But if you're running a user group or you run a community online, please email me and let me know, because if you've got an event, I'm going to put my email down there. I will appear at your event virtually. I will do like this. I'll turn up and say hello to people, and if that will encourage people to attend your event, I'll do an Ask Me Anything, or I'll do a presentation or something like that. But it doesn't matter where you are in the world. I can turn up virtually to almost anywhere. I did one last week in Australia, and I think the 2 days before that, I did one in Korea. Well, I obviously can't be in Korea one day and Australia the next, and then back in the US. So, that's the benefit of virtual events. But if you are looking to run a user group or get some developers together, or you have a regular meeting with a bunch of friends, or even a group of you that work in a company and you would like me to pop in and talk to you virtually, I'm happy to do that. I mean that. It's my job. It's my job to talk to you about our products. It's my job to talk to you about software development in general, preferably with our products, but anything to do with Pascal, Object Pascal, and I mean that, not just Delphi, but I'll talk about Free Pascal as well and things like that. But these are the people that pay me, so that's my bias, shall we say. I'm going to be biased about it, but I've been a Delphi developer for 30 years, ever since it came out. And if you're running a user event, email me there. And if you want me to turn up, I will do it, and I'll turn up virtually at your workplace if you want to do a meeting there and you've got a bunch of developers who work in that area, I'm happy to do it. And schools and universities, particularly schools and universities, because as Michael Jackson said, the only thing I agreed with is children are our future. Well, that's true of young people and students as well. It's our future, and I will do what I can to help out. It doesn't always work out because some people, it's difficult to get things together. And like last year, we had a situation where I was really confident about something. It didn't work out. And I hope we can revisit that and make that happen next time because they're a good bunch of people there, didn't they? Will it be recorded? Yes, it will. It will be on our YouTube channel automatically, and we also add it to the IDE, and you'll be able to see it. I think I said hello to Tripoli already. Hello in Libya. How about the right? Good. I'm glad you mentioned that. I have some good news because let me see if I put the link up here. I have not. Let me create a QR code because the webinar materials are now up for the OAuth 2 demo. I didn't realize quite how popular it would be, but it turns out that it was extremely popular. So let me just get that link up there. If you scan this one here, this code, it will take you to the repository. But I'm also going to put a link down here in what's called the lower third. So here, so if you go to github.com /check digits, that's my GitHub handle, and then look for OAuth 2 demo, the source code is there, a README file that tells you what to do, and the PDF of the slides as well. So if you liked the OAuth 2 webinar, and I know based on the feedback I had a couple of hundred people saying this was fantastic, thank you so much. I make it very clear, both in the demo and also in the repository. I actually use some code that was from another person for the OAuth 2 stuff because we do our own built-in OAuth 2 authentication, but Google make it not work. So this example code uses a repository that I found that did work, and it was very, very good piece of code. I give it a proper credit. Unfortunately, I haven't got the details with me at the moment, but I put the credit in there to the person who created that unit. It was very easy. My example is like 10 lines long of how to do it, but you'll need the slides because you'll need to see the steps to get to the point where you've got the API key. But if you like the OAuth demo, it's there. If you want to, go to our YouTube channel at Embarcadero Tech, and you can watch the replays, and it's always in the IDE in the on the welcome page. So don't worry, I do what I can. Now the blog, the trouble is the blog is filled up at the moment with stuff about 12.3, and I don't want to put too many of my stuff on there because what happens is I overwhelm the stuff about 12.3 launch because I get so much volume of stuff that I put out that I literally overwhelm the main blog, and the articles about the 12.3 get wiped out. And also they're pushing out a lot of blog posts as well. And if I don't make mine sticky, i.e. make mine stand at the top, as they add theirs on, it'll push mine down very quickly. So within 3 days, my article's gone and I've wasted all that time creating the article. But go to here and go to here. The slides are there. Okay, and so is the example code, and it shows you how to do OAuth 2, and it works in 12.3, but it should work in earlier versions as well. I didn't test it in anything earlier because I work for the company, so I've got the latest version, but it definitely works in 12.2, and it definitely works in 12.3 because I did it myself. So there you go. All right, so what else we've got? Long journey, 30 years of Delphi plus 10 years of Turbo Pascal. Yeah, it's been around for 40 years and it's still going strong. We are number 9, or we go between 9 and 10 in the TIOB index of the top 10 programming languages in the world. And yet people keep saying, oh, Delphi's dead. Well, come this Friday for the webinar. I'm going to show you a load of projects that are written in Delphi that are still active and current and, up to date. So that answered Goran's question. It was up there. Yeah, or to stuff, or go to my homepage. Patrick, salut, Patrick Savama, my friend. I hope you're doing well. Patrick Pramatan, last year's Spirit of Delphi Award winner and all-round good guy. Is a very good website called Delphi-books.com, I think it is. Just make sure, because I've got a link to it. Yeah, Delphi-books.com. Literally as it sounds, Delphi-books.com. Go there. That's Patrick's site. It's a brilliant service to the community. He's got a load of books on there. And while we're on the subject of books, I'm going to when I share my screen, I'll tell you about another book that's come out, which is a free book for Delphi, and that is from Marco Cantu. If you go to blog.marcocantu.com, you'll see it there. What else we got? Hello from the Philippines. Oh my word! And I'm going to talk about my database stuff in a moment. Hi from Algeria. Zoe again from Ghana. Hello, Zoe. You come quite often here, don't you? That's very good. I recognise your name. Ian, can you provide the link in the chat? Yes, I will do that. Let me get that up now. Good point. Well made. I forgot that. Let me just put it in our chat. Link to the or to that should come up. Patrick, ping me if that didn't work. Okay. Soon to be in the top 10 code generation IDEs. Yes, this is a kind of reference to AI, and we're actually going to have some specific webinars. Yes, the Delphi 5 book. Yes, we're going to have some specific. This actually leads me on to another subject. We're going to have some specific webinars about AI, but also, if you want to, and you should get an email about it shortly, there is some specific AI training. This is in the US, although I think they do in Europe as well. From GDK, they are going to teach you how AI works, from large language models, what it's all about, and also how you can incorporate it in your own code, and also teach you about the features and the IDE. They're not us. It's not us that's doing it. It's GDK. GDK are the superb sponsors for the Delphi Summit. So that QR code goes to that link down there, training.gdksoftware.com. I get very well with the joint CEOs of GDK Software. They're based in Brazil and the Netherlands, and they're the ones that are doing the Delphi Summit. Fantastic supporters of Delphi. In the Brazilian office, on the outside, it says, "We are Delphi." They're not playing around. They really throw their weight behind Delphi. And we've got other tech partners that do it, but it's good. Hello, Jim from OC Doug in Orange, California. Hey, I'm coming to the Orange County Delphi user group soon to do your web. Now I forget what date it is. I'm going to do it now. It's tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow I am going to be appearing virtually at the Orange County Delphi user group in Orange County, California. So I have to stay up a little bit later than normal because you've got time difference. It's fine. Add such link to media to the YouTube info. Yes, we do that. I actually did it this morning. We created the link there, but actually in the YouTube video, it goes directly to the thing. But I see what you're saying about the video. It's a good point. Okay, well, look, let's enough of that for now. That was the other site I was talking about, delphibooks.com, from the wonderful Patrick. Sunny England, that must be the very tip of Cornwall. I can say that as an Englishman, right? But yeah, I was born in South London. But. Right, let us, without further ado, me again from Trinidad in the Caribbean. Good day to you. Hello, Colin. Thank you for coming. You're quite often here. I really appreciate your effort. Right, so let me just close this. I'm going to share my screen, and then I'm going to pull over a couple of web pages. Let me just because I want you to see a couple of things. Here I am. Now I'm going to keep me on screen whilst I do this. Let me see. Right, so first of all, do this without breaking everything. Marco Cantu has he has updated a new book, and it's available for free if you are oh, Einstein's here from France. Hello, Einstein. And Hadrian's Wall, says Dominic. Ah, right, up north then. I get it. So this is a free book. It's, as you can see, it's Delphi 5, so it's pretty out of date, way before things like generics and inline vars and stuff like that. But it is completely free, and he's just updated it in February 2025. I thoroughly recommend it. As you are probably aware, Marco Cantu is the kind of beginning and the end of Delphi as far as Embarcadero is concerned. He is the guy. The buck stops with him. If he says something about Delphi, you can take it as read that he's right, because he's the guy. He is Mr. Delphi nowadays, and I suppose I'm I'm like the John the Baptist of Delphi, and if you want to look at that, my job is to spread the word of the master. But he is written this book. It's on his blog, and if you go to his blog, it is at blog.embarcadero. Sorry, blog.marcocantu.com. You go there, and then you can see right on the very first page. There's the link about it. So really great. It's a really good book, and it's available completely free at that link there on his blog page. So you know, want a free book about Delphi? There, you can't get better than that. Now, obviously, you can get his other main up-to-date Object Pascal handbook as well. So if you're not up to date with how Object Pascal works, then I definitely recommend that you get this book. You can get it either from Amazon, or you can get it from us. He's also got code repository for the code in it. But if you go to our main company website, go to embarcadero.com, you can look the book up there, and I think you get it free with a trial or something like that. I can't remember the exact details, but the book is available, widely available. You can get it in all sorts of places. But that's the up-to-date book. Now, the other one is the one that's out of date, but he's updated it to match some of the changes that have happened over the years since this book first was written. It was a very popular book back in its day. So there you go. Okay, so that is that. Now, what was the other thing? There was something else I had. Oh, yes, and I already told you about the repository. That is for the OAuth demo. If you go to my GitHub there, github.com/checkdigits/OAuth2 demo. In there, you will find the example of how to set up your OpenAuth or OAuth2, and it also credits the guy, which is Tiago Nunes Goncalves, or Gonçalves actually, also known as Imperial on there. I used a unit from there, which I include in here, and also is available on his site as well. But my code is fairly straightforward. If you didn't watch the webinar, here is the unit that basically does the OAuth2. It's only a few lines of code. That's how easy it is in Delphi, is to generate the OAuth2. Go and watch the video about it, and I link it in the README there. And as Daniel says, the Delphi book is the Bible following your biblical theme. Indeed, yes, indeed. Resources white paper. Yes, thank you. There you go. Patrick, as ever, is coming up with the link to get the downloads for the book. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, you can't get much easier than that for OAuth2, and then you can implement it in your apps. And I strongly recommend that you do, because you're going to find, at least learn how it works, because you're going to find more and more resources are going to be available only behind OAuth 2, like Google Images. Some Amazon stuff is via OAuth 2, although Richard Handle's his Apercept stuff is very, very good at dealing with that for you. But you'll find more and more that whenever you want the user to do anything useful with a public, hosted service, that you're going to need to understand how OAuth works. Those are just the setup bits, and then actually just calling it is very, very easy. So hats off to our developer, the guy there who did that, because that was really good. And all I did was just piggyback it. Anyway, let's talk about today's subject before we get any further. Sandra says, I downloaded Delphi 5 PDF now, but it's crashed. I don't know why. It will work. It's just a PDF. Something on your computer doing it. Sorry, I don't know what to say about that. I'm sure you'll work it out. Anyway, let's start the presentation about the webinar topic. So today's webinar topic was not quite what they said on the actual webinar setup, because they called it one thing and I called it something else. I'm going to turn my camera off just 1 second. There you go, so that you can see the code and everything. They called it one thing. I actually wasn't the subject that I told them originally to set up, because I get to do that. Hello, Ogere in Nigeria. And Paul said it worked for him, the download on PDF. Yeah, I was trying to do something else for the topic, but they went ahead and said use this one, which is fine. And then the event title that's set up on YouTube says something else. It's like robust database or something. But today's topic is databases, databases, databases. And it'll make sense why I'm saying it like that in a moment. Who am I? If you don't know who I am, if this is the first time you've seen one of our webinars, my name is Ian Barker, and I'm the Embarcadero Developer Advocate. And you can email me, please do, at ian.barker@embarcadero.com, and I will reply to your email. Sometimes it takes me a little while because I'm really busy, particularly at the moment. But, some of the regulars on the webinar chat there will tell you I definitely do answer your emails. Next week is the clock change for Europe. And so the time will go back to 6 p.m. For now, it's been 5 p.m. UTC. But for the UK and some other European countries, it will become 6 p.m. again. But it's always at the same time. So whatever time we started today, that's when I do it. And then hopefully your time will catch up. You can read about who I am at about.me/Ian Barker. Today's slides will eventually turn up at tinyurl.com/ibdata30. They won't do it at the moment. They go to the product page, which confuses some people. It's because I can't show the replay until I've done the actual recording. Databases, databases, databases. Now, the nerds and geeks amongst you, and I already had one message me earlier on today, will remember Steve Ballmer's very sweaty developers, and I sympathize with him, because that's what I would look like if I was on stage and doing that kind of nonsense as well. But today's webinar is about databases, databases, databases. What sort of databases? Well, it depends on the version of RAD Studio you've got, and also what type of database you're working with. There's some network/cloud databases, and we can connect to all of those: MySQL, MariaDB, MySQL SQL Server, Microsoft SQL Server, Oracle, you name it. Postgres is popular, Infomix. There's just everything. You can connect to absolutely everything. That is the one powerful thing that it's 2:29 p.m. from Brazil. Oh, okay. It's the one powerful thing that we definitely are very, very good at, probably better than almost other systems. Ferenc says, I've tried to reach you via email, but no answer up to now. Great webinars, by the way. Try again. I don't know why. Maybe your email's bouncing. That is definitely my email address. If not, go to the Contact Us page on the website, put a contact in there, and then try and reach me, because that will come to me. and the people that are in charge of that will come along and turns out it was a Chrome error. Yes, use Microsoft Edge. It's based on the same technology, but it seems to work better. You can do local databases as well, and it depends on who it is that's providing the actual database, whether it can do local or not, and embedded. Nexus and Nexus DB, for example, can do embedded, so can Postgres, MySQL, and a few others. And Interbase, of course, using IB2Go and IB Lite. And you can also have Interbase on the local host. So there are lots and lots and lots of options, but we really do, we slap around the competition when it comes to this kind of thing. It is something that we do. Ron Maliza, well, actually, Moran, I'm going to tell you why Paradox is not listed. And the reason is that Ball and Database Engine is the original, and I've just preempted Patrick's answer there, where he says, "Oh, you're probably not going to talk about the BDE." The Ball and Database Engine was how it all started with Delphi 1, actually, and it was the way to do things. And because of that, Paradox became a very, very popular database. You can still connect to Paradox using ODBC and a few other things as well, but really, what I'm going to tell you is exactly what Patrick would say. It's been deprecated for years, and you shouldn't use it. And the reason is that the BDE, we work very hard at Embarcadero to try and make it still work, but it was written in a time way, way before the the technologies of Windows, file sharing, and all those kind of things existed. So it is actually very, very easy to corrupt a Paradox database. Now, I'm kind of an expert on how you can make Paradox databases work across networks, but even I would say, well, I wouldn't use it anymore. It can be done, but you should probably move on from it. I'm going to show you some alternatives in a moment anyway. Some of them are free, some of them not, but you can easily swap from Paradox, honestly. Not a problem. So let's just recap before we get into the details of the database and show you two demos. The kinds of things that you can do. Well, connecting to data nowadays, you're going to use a data source, okay? And the standard, the de facto standard inside the ID nowadays is FireDAC. And this is a technology that basically will allow you to connect to almost any database. And I'm going to show you, Ron says, I was joking. Yes, rest in peace, Paradox. Ron, love it. But yes, the FireDAC connection is the default way to do it. And you can connect to multiple databases, even within the same app. And one of my demos today does do that. And I'll show you how that works. Dynamically connecting to two different databases at the same time or independently. And with that basic connection, you then connect to the data by adding a connection and a table or a query or something like that. Link that to the data source. And now on the VCL, you link the data aware controller and source, and then select the fields that you want to appear in your source. So if it's a text box, then you're probably going to have a single field. If it's a table, then you're going to have multiple fields. Under FMX, under FireMonkey, you will use live bindings. FireMonkey does not support data aware fields. It does it through the live bindings. It's actually fairly easy to do. I'm going to show you VCL today, but I'm going to show FireMonkey another day. I've shown FireMonkey before in other webinars in this series. So if you go back and look for anything that says database, you'll see me doing it. Connecting to data, well, use the DB aware controls if you're using the VCL. You link their data source and data field properties of that control to your data source component. So if you've got a table called employees, you might link that that text edit box there to the last name of the employee or the first name or something like that. Hello from Transylvania, Romania. Hello, Tomsoft. That's fantastic, from Romania and Transylvania, obviously. And Nigel says, hello, Ian. Hi, all from Southern England. Sorry I'm late. Yes, you are getting tardy slip for that, as they call it over here, and you will have to go to the back of the queue and be told off. Anyway, data source and data field, and that can make those fields appear in your components. This is for VCL. Memo would be the same thing. You probably put an address field in there or something like that. Easy to do. And when you click on data field, it will list all of the fields in your database. Very, very easy. It couldn't get much simpler. And you can do that inside the IDE. I'll talk about that in a moment. Other data related items, if you haven't ever heard of it, and you should do, then you should be using data modules. Data modules are non-visible and they're very, very useful for containing all of your business logic, as it's called, and keeping it away from the user interface, which is good practice. You should always have the user interface, does not have a direct connection with the data. And the reason is that you can swap databases in and out very easily, but also it's just good practices that user interface does the minimum thing. Now, if you are using model view controller paradigm, then your data module can contain all these classes and acts like the controller, and then the view would be your form. But that's not how a lot of, probably over half of Delphi programmers don't do it that way. They actually use a data module and then do that link in there. You just do a uses and then the name of the data module in your code, and then on your form you can just link those fields up. I often do it a different way, but that's how you can do it. Now, let's talk about some great databases you may or may not have heard of. Nexus DB, a very good bunch of people. They are a very big tech partner. They're supporters of Delphi and Rad Studio. I didn't know this text would appear step by step, but there you go. You can see it. They are very heavily into Delphi, and I know for a fact, because they've already told me, they are coming to the Delphi Summit, which will be in June. So if you want to meet them and talk to them about their database technology, go to the Delphi Summit, which is there, or delphi-summit.com, and you can see how their stuff works and what it is. Very cost-effective database, I have to say. It's not at all expensive. Whoops, hang on. And it is ACID compliant and all the other things that you could ever want it to do. If you don't know what those are, then Google them. But it's royalty free, which is a big deal as well. So you can deploy it on as many systems as you like. It's SQL 2003 compliant, and it does client serve and embed and all the rest of it. Really great. The reason I'm talking about it is they're tech partners and very good Delphi supporters. So it's worth having a look at what they've got. Let me just pull the chat up again because people are asking me questions. The provider uses interface from yes. Okay, I see what you're saying there. That's something else. Who else? Well, some other great databases. That is the Absolute database. Now, the thing about the Absolute database that's interesting is that, and again, I didn't know this was going to go on like this. It is entirely written in Delphi. I just need to drink my coffee for a second. So Absolute Database embeds itself in your code. There is no DLL or anything like that. It's built into the code, and everything to do with it just works out of the box. I've used Absolute Database myself for some projects, and it literally is what it says, a BDE replacement. So the person that was talking about the BDE, I know you were joking now, but if you were someone out there who was using the BDE and Paradox, and please don't, but if you are, then this is a really great alternative, and I've used it and it works. It creates databases with the .abs extension, and it's pretty cost effective. I think it's like $100 and something or something like that for the full version with source, which future proofs you, of course, in case people go bust or the world changes and they're suddenly going to have tariffs of 9,000% or something like that. The other great database is one that obviously I'm a little bit biased about, and that is Interbase, our very own database. And the thing about Interbase is that it's got some very unique features for a client-server database. It's very scalable. You've seen me talk about it before. Actually, Dad is also mentioning an Elevate DB. Very good point. Sorry, I didn't include a slide for Dale on here, but Elevate DB is also a great database. There are just so many out there, but Elevate is a good deep database as well. Interbase has got a thing called change views, which is very interesting. You've probably already got a license to do all sorts of things with Interbase, certainly in your mobile apps. And if you're not sure how it works, go and watch the previous webinars where I talked about mobile databases. It's a cinch to set up, very, very easy. I'm going to show a little bit of a demo partly with that today as well. Traditional DBMSs, as we would call them, for example, this one is used by everyone and his cat, and there's MySQL. And MySQL is, it's two ways of looking at it. It's owned by Oracle, which is hilarious because Oracle is a database in its own right. And Tom Soft, I'm going to answer your question in a moment because I'm going to show you. MySQL has got two variants or two flavors. One of them is the community edition, which is completely free, and it's free of charge, should we say. You need to read how the licensing affects you, but basically, if you're using the community edition, then you will find that is absolutely free, and it's very widely distributed on tons and tons and tons of web hosts have MySQL as a database technology, basically because there's no charge, and it's a very useful system. And I'm going to show you it working in a moment. Another one, which actually is from the people that created the original MySQL, and that is MariahDB, and you can get that from mariahdb.org. Now, if you're having trouble getting hold of a 32-bit driver for MySQL, which if you don't have RAD Studio 12.3, which comes with the 64-bit IDE, which I'm going to show you in a moment, if you are stuck on an older version like 11.3 or something like that, or 12.2, that doesn't have a 64-bit IDE, then you cannot directly load the drivers into your programs in the IDE. If you go to MariahDB, you can get their drivers, and they do a 32-bit driver, which is compatible with MySQL 32-bit. And I've used it a lot, and people say, oh, it doesn't do this, it doesn't do that. I can tell you, I've used it in production systems absolutely fine. Talking to MySQL, there are a few caveats which are kind of beyond the scope of this program, but it works very well. MariahDB.org, get their drivers, but also consider their database. And by the way, the reason it's called MariahDB is because it's the name of his daughter, the guy that invented it. And the reason that MySQL is called MySQL is not because it's MySQL as in it's mine, but it's actually because his other daughter was called Maya, I believe, and so it's Maya's SQL. But I think he's got another database called something else, and it's also named after his children. So fair play to him. I like that kind of calling out of family members, and as an American say, a hat tip to them. That's kind of cool, really, isn't it? If you can't do that kind of thing in your world, then what shouldn't? While we're talking about traditional DBMSs that you can also talk to with RAD Studio, the one that I really like to say, how to empty your wallet in 2 easy steps, is SQL Server. Now, SQL Server has got its own kind of light versions, which I don't understand the licensing behind. I'm not knocking Microsoft, by the way. I love Microsoft. I use Microsoft products all the while. I use them in preference to other things, but SQL Server has got to be, you've got to be some kind of higher being to understand the licensing sometimes, because the more you do with getting to licensing, the more it costs you money. But SQL Server is very, very popular. If you are in a, as Dominic says, lots and lots of dollars, yes, it is. And actually, that's true of many of the corporate DBMSs. you can start to burn through money if you deploy this in a corporate environment. Now, SQL Server, I think it's fair to say, apart from Oracle, who are also equally not cost effective, I think, in the licensing. How can I put this without being rude? Expensive. I'm just going to say it. Oracle are also very expensive as well. They have per CPU licensing and all sorts of things like that. Um, but the yes, Maya is a girl's name. Yes, I agree. But SQL Server is probably, if you go to a corporate environment where it's like a company or an organization or a charity or something like that, you'll probably find that the corporate IT people are making you use Microsoft Server as the server, and all the desktops are all Microsoft Windows 11 Business, and the database technology behind the scenes will be SQL Server. That is the reality. Microsoft are very, very effective at offering deals to people that make them go that direction. But I personally feel like the minute you do that, your organization is just going to unload an awful lot of cash in that direction. That may be fine. You pay for what you get in some ways. You're going to get some good support for SQL Server, but why, it's eye-wateringly expensive. I know I've had to be the one that have budgeted for some organizations and watched a chief financial officer at one company kind of whimper at the cost. Other ones, this one is probably a very good alternative because it is actually free, and it's open source as well. So the world's most advanced open source relational database. Yeah, I think that's probably true. Postgres does walk its own path in some ways when it comes to how it does things. So um, the way that you interface with the tables has got like an additional level to get through to. It won't really make sense until I show you the MySQL stuff, but there's like an additional step of like a private and public kind of repository of tables and stuff. Schemas, I suppose, is the way of calling it. But it's, again, you probably find Postgres on almost every single web host will offer MySQL or Postgres or both. And as Paul says, it's very powerful too. Yes, it is. It's got some quite incredible features, and I like it, but it can also be a bit of a beast to maintain sometimes. It's got some very interesting timestamp things that actually I've seen emulated by MySQL of late, but Postgres were way ahead of time, and they allowed you to have what are known as domain-aware timestamps. So, for example, if you have something where you're logging a task and you want to log the task in UTC, Universal Time, but you actually want to know what the time was locally, and let's say it's a security camera app, very relevant, I'm going to do one shortly, but you want to have a security camera, and so you want to know, hey, when this event happened, when someone broke into the offices, what actual time was it locally in Brazov in Romania? And with the kind of things that Postgres can do, you can see what time it was on UTC, and you don't have to do the math in your head. It will show you what the actual time was that it was recorded in a special offset timestamp, which is one of the things that I found very, very useful. It's also got some very powerful built-in functions for manipulating those fields as well. So Postgres, beloved by a lot of people. I'm not going to show it today, but almost everything you see me do today with the MySQL, you can do with Postgres, and probably for the same price. Here's what they say about it. It's a powerful open source object relational database system. It's got all sorts of things that it can do, but yeah, I'm quite a big fan of Postgres, really. It is a superb system. So, are you using Advantage Database? Now, why do I bring this up? Oh, and as Paul says, it's got some native JSON and JSON-B with operators to index. Yes, and I think MySQL are playing catch up with some of these things. So lots of votes in the chat there saying that PostgreSQL is a good free database. Advantage database server. The reason I bring this up is it at one point was almost the weapon of choice for many Delphi developers out there and C++ builder developers. And Kerry Jensen, who wrote both these books, I know very well, him and his wife Loy, based in Texas as well, as all good people are. And he's written a couple of books. And the bad news is, unfortunately, it was bought by Sybase. And Sybase are a big database company, and they have deprecated, and you can exchange the word deprecated with destroyed and killed, the very popular Advantage database. And so it is gone, going away. Hello, Abdullah in Iran. Good to hear from you. And it's gone. Now, if you have got a project using Advantage database, I strongly recommend that you convert as soon as you can, because you are going to find it very difficult soon to support Advantage, because, and this is not me trying to be knocking Sybase, they're a perfectly creditable company. Companies make decisions about deprecating things for lots of reasons, but they have made it clear they got rid of their Delphi team. They are not going to be supporting Advantage anymore. They say as much. And so if you've got an Advantage database project, you really should convert. If you go to fullconvert.com, how to/advantage to Interbase, then it will show you how you can convert from the Advantage database to Interbase. It's got almost exactly the same features. And like I say, you've probably got a license for it already, which will save you. If not, there are deals on licenses and things like that. Just contact our salespeople. But Full Convert do other conversions as well. Ian says Oracle and SQL Server are used in big corporate environments for the whole package, not just the database. Yes, I think you're right there, Ian. I mean, sometimes it seems like Salesforce, which is a very popular package. Sometimes people buy a system that is the software they want to use, the application or domain-specific software, and that domain-specific software or application-specific software that solves the problem happens to use a database, and it requires certain services like Windows Server 2019 or something like that, and so that's why the corporates end up in that loop. Yes, and it's a thing. But anyway, to go back to Advantage, please, for your own sanity, and I'm not trying to scare you, but you really should consider converting from Advantage as soon as you can, because it is, they've said in so many words on their webpage that it is obsolete and they're getting rid of it. And I don't want to be trapped with an app that you can't do. Now, when we talk about databases, there is one tool to rule them all, and I'm not wearing a ring anymore, so you can't accuse me of being the one ring person, but it is the Heidi SQL. This is so good that many people use it in instead of the official apps for things like MySQL, which is MySQL Desktop, IB Console, which is the Interbase one, and the SQL Server Workbench type stuff. That's how good Heidi SQL is. But you know what's even better about it? It's open source, it's completely free, and it's written in Delphi, and that's great. It's a really good package, and I recommend that you go to HeidiSQL.com and have a look. You can download it. You can even download the source code and have a fiddle with it yourself. Build your own version of Heidi SQL. Have it with red on green screens or something like that if you feel like it. But you could also even add in your own databases and maybe issue a pull request or something. I don't think that Ansar, who is the developer, he's an MVP by the way. I don't think Ansar actually accepts pull requests, but you never know. But he's got a bug tracker, and if you do use Heidi SQL, like all these projects that I say, when they're open source, you really should consider donating. It doesn't matter if it's just a very small amount of money. Everything helps. If 100 people donate $5, which is an affordable amount in most countries, then that person's earned $500. So it's good for them to have. Anyway, let's do a demo because the demo will be quite fun to have a look at. So let me first of all go and show you something. So here is the kind of thing that I was talking about. This is MySQL Workbench, and I've got all sorts of servers that I connect to, and here's all my databases and tables. Okay, and that's very typical of most of the tools you get out there. There's also one for interbase. So I've got an interbase database locally running, and it's a local thing on my machine. What was the word I'm looking at? Yeah, a local database on my machine, and this allows me to run queries and create databases and things like that. But that's not what I want to do. So what I'm going to do is open up RAD Studio 12.3. Now, this is actually the 64-bit ID. You can just see it, I think, at the top of the screen there. Okay, so unlike 32-bit IDEs, which looks like this, you'll see in the top left there, it doesn't say 64-bit, but I've got the 32-bit IDE open. Both of them share lots and lots of settings and things like that. The 64-bit IDE version of 12.3 can only do Windows 64-bit apps at the moment, and that is intentional. This is a preview of, we're going to call it the initial release, but this is the initial release of the 64-bit IDE. So it's got a few rough edges. It's all new, and so some things are not going to work. Marcin Muscovich says, what about Firebird DB? Actually, that is an oversight on my behalf, and I'll mention them in a moment. Firebird DB is obviously interbase compatible up to interbase 2019 or something. I'm not sure, but yes, Firebird DB, basically all the things you can do with interbase that I'm going to show you can do with Firebird as well. Great system, open source. I've got nothing against it. I apologize for missing it off there. That is an oversight on my behalf. I'm not trying to nobble the project. I'm independent in that respect. So anyway, 64-bit IDE, here's the welcome page, and as I keep telling you, just so that you can remind you, all the videos, TurboDB is another question. I've not used TurboDB, so I can't give you an answer on it. This is Sahin is like, he's asking, sorry, I might have missed it. Any impressions about TurboDB? I don't have any. Sahin, I just have not used it, so I couldn't really talk knowledgeably about it. I have used Firebird and I screwed up. I apologize. I'll put a link up shortly about it. That's not deliberate, and I appreciate it could look like it because there's some crossover between Firebird and Interbase, but they're different projects for different things. But anyway, here's the welcome page. Here's the Learn tab. If you want to watch any of the IDEs again on the replays, people ask me all the time, where are the replays? They're all on here, all of them. So whenever you want to, one of the recent webinars, it's here. Now, let's start by opening a simple demo. And what I have here is I have a Fire DAC connection, okay, and it is connecting to a local database, okay, and that local database is the one that I just showed you, which is this MySQL database here. The way that I created it was just with a script. I used UltraEdit actually to do it, and in fact, here is UltraEdit. And so I created a script and I said create example, and I got a ton of data that I put in it. And you can just run that in MySQL. MySQL comes with a command prompt like that, and you can do things like typing commands interactively, and it'll list all the databases. And so if I said asterisk I don't think I'm using the database, limit 10, then I can run queries interactively. Oops. and show you data in there like that. So that's what that is. So there's a true MySQL server running in the background. I have an FD table that's connecting to that connection. And the table is called example database, which is the one that I just showed you in here. Example database. It's got some pretend data in. And employee just stands for master table employee. And I've got a data source. Now, the data source ties the table to something else. So in this case, it is a grid. And you can see in here there's a property that says data source. And I've got a driver link. Now, here's the thing you cannot do in the 32-bit IDE. If I go to here, and because MySQL only does 64-bit drivers now, and this is MySQL Server 8, right? It could not before in the 32-bit IDE, because they only do 64-bit drivers, do this, which is have the data open live in the IDE. Because they couldn't run that 64-bit driver. Because it's a 64-bit IDE, you can do it live. And the good thing about that is it means that you can go in and you can do things like edit the columns. And so I can, show what column. Well, actually, I don't have any columns, but I can go in and view which columns there. And if I want to add a field, I'm connecting live to the actual database and pulling up all the information. So I could say, okay, let me pick up, I don't even know if I've got anything in here, but let's choose employee number. That's probably a good one to have. If I say employee number, and now live in the IDE, you can just barely see it because it's not set up very nicely, but let me move these out of the way. You can see that the employee ID is live. And I can say, well, that doesn't look really pretty. So I'm going to say employee number for the display label. And it will change dynamically employee number. So that's live in the ID, which is great. It's nice, it looks good. But let's go back. And instead of doing that, let's turn this off. And let's run the app. Okay. Somewhere behind the scenes, here's my app. So this is the app that we're running, and I'm going to say do it. All that's going to do is connect to the MySQL database. Boom, instantaneously. And remember, I dynamically added the employee number and changed the title of the grid there. It can do all that. This is all straightforward stuff. Now you might say, well, what's this here? Well, I added some themes just for the sheer heck of it. So let's choose Oric, and you'll see that the whole thing changes dynamically. But notice also that it's not forgotten the position of the fields or anything else. It's repainting dynamically. So if I've got Andrea Reed selected and go back in there, you can see that Andrea Reed, you can just about see the indicator there, is still selected. Okay, let's choose Tablet Dark because I quite like that version. Cool stuff. Okay, so that is an example, and you can see the theme affects all these buttons on it. That's an example of how easy it is to connect to the database. What does it do behind the scenes? Well, I just toggle the visibility so that I can turn the database off and on. When I create the form, I just enumerate how many themes I've included in my project. So to go down to here, come on, display, please. In here, there's a thing that says appearance, and I've got these themes that I've already installed from Get It, and I just tick on the ones I want. So if I wanted to have Ruby Graphite, which is a gray version with red buttons, now when I run the IDE, in the debugger, up it comes, and over here, now it should say Ruby Graphite, which it does. See my little red button there? Do it, connects dynamically, do it undynamically. So easy stuff. That's MySQL. But you might say, well, okay, MySQL, what else can you do? Well, let's try this. My IDs are being a little bit flighty because I move things around. Let's close all that. And let's open my other example that I have. It's asking for login because I've set it to be active at design time. So here's another version of the example app that I had. And this time I'm going to do something cool. Okay. So what I have are two connections, and what these are doing will become more obvious in a moment. I'm just going to drag this down here so that you can see the fields. I'm going to say connect, and you'll see there are now two buttons in this example. One says MySQL and one says Interbase. I'm going to hit this button, and it fills the grid with the data from the MySQL table. But if I click on here and say Interbase, you'll see that it's now filling it with 1,000 records from my Interbase database. And in case you're not entirely certain that I'm telling the truth, and I wouldn't blame you for that, let's go down to let's forget how to do this. Table space, table type. Do this off the top of my head. Oh, that's why. Okay. So first name, last name, blah blah blah. Data. It's because I called them a stupid name that looked like it was a property. So there are over 1,000 records in here, and as you can see, it's just generated nonsense. Okay. So let me just go back into here. So just to recap what I'm doing, same grid, no changes to the grid, showing data from MySQL. Same grid, no change to the grid, showing information from Interbase. And whilst we're at it, we may as well just choose a different theme again, just to make sure that we all know what it's doing is rather cool. Completely dynamic, connecting to two different databases. Now, I could have 50 databases here of types. So I could have a SQL Server database, Oracle database, Firebird database, which I forgot to mention earlier on, Interbase, MySQL, PostgreSQL, which is the most difficult one to pronounce. All of them could be listed in here, and I could literally dynamically get this grid to show data from there on the fly. Extremely powerful. I would like to see you do that easily with another language. It's not that straightforward. But all I've got here is I'm saying I'm connected to my MySQL database. I've got my parameters for my server set up and the port and all the rest of it. This one here is connecting, the connection type is an interbase connection. The FD table 1 is pointing to the table name in MySQL, which is employee. And in Interbase, I'm connecting to the users table. And then the data source, MySQL, is this one. And the data source, Interbase, is this one. So that data source points to that. That data source points to that. How do I do it? Well, in my code, I'm just going to zoom that up a bit so you can see it. I think it's fairly clear anyway. But in my code, when I connect, I work out if I'm connected or not already so that I can disconnect. I then make sure that the MySQL connection gets connected, which it does, and turn on the first table, which is the MySQL table. I then turn on the Interbase connection, and I make sure that works. And if it does, then I connect to the second table. I then enable the MySQL button and enable the Interbase button, but none of this will happen because if something went wrong, then I would crash out of there. Normally, you would have a try except or try finally in here to connect that. And at the end of it, you say, okay, then I'm going to turn the grid on. Okay. All that the grid button does to swap from one thing to another is I literally say this: the data source for the grid is the MySQL one, and the Interbase button says the data source for the grid is the Interbase source, like that. So Interbase source, MySQL source. And it will then, because I don't have any columns set up in here, because you can set these DB columns in here permanently, but because I don't, it will automatically absorb the columns from the FireDAC from the FireDAC table. So I've only chosen a few out of all the potential ones, because that actual database itself is a whole bunch of other fields, and I only wanted to show a few of them in the demo, and off it goes, and it will do that. Same with this. If I double click on there, it will open the table editor, and as it happens, these are all the fields. I don't think there's any extra. Oh no, there's a couple of extras: a profile pic and biography. Simple as that. Now, the same principles that I've done here also work on FireMonkey, but they're a bit more complicated because you're using data binding. So what you have to do with that is you have the data source, and then you have to change some parameters on there. It's a bit more complicated to show in a webinar, but it's not that difficult. But certainly with VCL, if you wanted to have a local embedded database that you cache data to, and then when you've got an internet connection, you pump up the data, and you then suddenly swap to your networked or cloud version of the database. This is how you would do it, and you know, it's literally one line of code. In fact, you don't even need this line here to do anything. I just happen to turn the grid off and at the start, just so it looks cool, and then I turn it on automatically afterwards. Let's just remind ourselves how that runs. Oh, it is actually running over here. Whoops. Zoom in big in it. So I that connects to MySQL and Interbase at the same time. It could be SQL Server, it could be Advantage, it could be your favorite database. That points to the one source, that points to another. And the only thing I'm changing is the data source for the grid. And no code to display all that data and all this functionality. If I wanted to edit it, I haven't turned on editing, but if I wanted to edit it, I could actually edit that field as well. And yes, it will also support all the themes automatically without anything extra to do. Oh, white mode kills me. You get me? Hope that is a reasonable example of how easy it is to manipulate data. It's like virtually no code. Now, if any of you watched the Mormot webinar that I did, Mormot does all of this, but it does it in a completely different way. It uses classes. Mars Curiosity, which is another project, that also does classes as well. But generally speaking, it's not difficult to do all these kind of things. So off we go. Let me just go, and I think I'm going to stop sharing my screen for now and go back to me. Hello. And let's look at some of the questions. Old versions are best, like Delphi 357 and so on. No, not true. That's nonsense. I'm sorry, it is nonsense. But 7 doesn't include 90% of the features that most modern apps use. It's great. Don't get me wrong. I have a big project that is entirely in Delphi 7, and the reason is that the company that I wrote it for don't want to invest any further money in it. And the reason it's still in Delphi 7 is it works and keeps on working. And that's the thing that is future-proof, because, you know, Delphi doesn't have any dependencies. But sooner or later, there are going to be things that the Delphi 7 app can't do. And the other problem you have as well is you end up with 64-bit operating systems like Windows that are going to start insisting on 64-bit versions of apps. Macs are nearly already there. They're not quite, but certainly notarizing 32-bit apps you can do still for Mac, but that's going to go away. The reason is that the hardware that they're releasing of late is all 64-bit. It's already the case with iOS. You can't do 32-bit iOS apps really anymore, and it's very difficult to do 32-bit Android apps. So when you say the old versions are the best, no. You can't do multi-platform, you can't create iOS, you can't create Mac, you can't create Linux, you can't create anything. None of the inventions of the last 25 years, because that's how old Delphi 7 is, 25 years. If you want to go and look at Windows from 25 years ago, go and look at it. It's Windows XP. So it doesn't understand things like the API calls to get things like the user's documents directory. It will not exist comfortably on a Citrix multi-screen environment, multi-tenant environment, for example. The database technology is completely outdated unless you buy a load of third-party stuff. I like it. I like Delphi 7. It was rock solid. It was the best IDE version that was around for a long time. But in terms of the technology, Delphi has moved on immensely, and C++ Builder as well. So 3, 5, and 7, no, sorry, I don't agree with you there. 3, definitely not. 5, 5 and 7 were similar. But you've got, many other things that are there that you really want. As Dominic says, try the community edition. Yeah, try it for free and see what you think. And if you don't qualify for the community edition, download a trial. What have you got to lose? It's very easy to do. And I'm going to put the page up here for that. Yeah, if you want to try the trial, go to here and try the trial. I'm going to put the link up in the top here. The nearest one I've got is this. Go to the webinar site and then click on products. There's a product link above it, and try a trial. I'll try the CE version, and if you qualify for it, you've got the latest version for free, and then you'll see what improvements to the language have been done, what new components. You wouldn't be able to do notifications under Windows, for example. You wouldn't be able to badge your icons under Windows. You can't do high-res apps. Your apps will look fuzzy on 2K and 4K screens. And if you say to me, oh, well, that's okay, my people don't use 2K screens. Not now, they don't. But because of Moore's law, it will happen that you will find in a year to 2 years' time, you won't be able to get a screen that's 1024 by 768 because they'll all be 1920 by 1080, which is 1080p. But very soon they will be 2K. It's already possible with my Mac that I bought the other day to have 5K and 8K screens, and that terrifies me. So, oh, Junior said ODD not old. Oh, I'm sorry, Junior. I misunderstood. Odd version's the best. I'm sorry. I apologize. Yeah. Okay, that's actually a superstition as well, because people always say, well, the old versions are the best ones. I see what you're saying, though. 3, 5, 7, yeah, 9. There wasn't a 9, but what did you do when it got to XE? Because the odd ones became the even ones. I don't know how you were that. Daniel says, I have a client that will not allow me to use FireDAC. Why? Why not? Were you using AnyDAC before? Oh, they want to use ADO. Yeah, I bet you I know why they want to use ADO, and I bet you it's because they only understand Microsoft technology. So yeah, it's ADO is slower, I believe. But FireDAC it's got so many other things. I haven't even scratched the surface. You should read one of the books about FireDAC or watch one of the webinars about it, because it does things like have queries that automatically post and update things. You don't have to worry about it. It just does it for you. Is there a license for FireDAC for sub-enterprise Delphi for 2-layer application to database server? No. Professional and CE will do local database only. However, if you're connecting to an interposing stack, then you're using REST and things like that, then that will work. That'll be fine. But if you're trying to connect to MySQL server, which is a remote one, that's not going to happen. That's not how it works. Val says Firebird is rock solid. Yeah, it totally is. And Interbase is very rock solid. And I'll tell you that it is actually, although I've not been able to get the proof, so I'm always careful when I say this. I'm told that Interbase is used in some aircraft black boxes. And I know it's definitely used in some tanks, which is crazy. But it's because it's got this really rock solid zero maintenance uh, disaster recovery. Many black boxes use a wire to record data, actually, and voice recorders quite often are on a wire, believe it or not, like a metal wire, not a power cord, but a metal wire. They record it on the wire itself. It's a very old technology, nearly 150 years old, and they use it to do that because it's almost completely fireproof and waterproof and weird stuff. So yeah, but Interbase is used in all sorts of places where encryption at rest is important. You can't do that in Firebird. Encryption at rest and table level, row level, and field level encryption, which is very important. And the reason it is very important, and I don't have, yes, I do have it here, is because of this little thing here. I'm just going to share my screen again. Let me just do that. And that is a new law that is coming out, which is a pain in the neck. And that is called the Digital, I mean, this is just insane, Digital Operational Resilience Act, also known as DORA. Someone's obviously got a sense of humor or a very small child, so they can mention Dora the Explorer. But the Digital Operational Resilience Act, which is a triumph of European law, I think. It's a legislation that requires you to store your data encrypted at rest. It used to be best practices for the Data Protection Act and all those kind of things, but now the DORA is going a bit further because there's so many hacks and things like that that they've got all sorts of rules and regulations. It's still something quite new, and we're looking into it. But and I want to say accept essential cookies. It talks about why you need it and all the rest of it. But the website there is just Google DORA Act or Digital Operational Resilience Act, because this URL's nonsense. But it's an act where, yeah, where is Diego? Exactly. Yeah. Hola, yeah, exactly. It's just it's crazy. It's not Yankee law, no, Dominic. It's actually a European law. And as Dominic says, oh yeah, EU, yay! I know, right? It's not American. The Americans are actually currently going around in the opposite direction. But this is an act that requires you to encrypt your data in various ways and provide protection for it and things like that. It makes a lot of sense, but it is really very, very frustrating for people because if you're a small business, trying to keep up with these laws is becoming more onerous. Interbase will do it. But I'm sure, look around and your mileage may vary. You may find other sites that do it. All I know is about Interbase for sure is one of those ones that do it. And that's why we're excited about that law. Hey, good. Okay, yeah, we can do that. So that's a cool thing for us. Actually, it wasn't a rumor. It was actually a fact that Abrams tanks used. There's a long story about how the technology is used because it's used partially on the things that program dashboards and things like that as well. But yes, I believe that is true. I've had some slides that have had Abrams tanks in there, and Interbase. Here's a real fact. Interbase is one of the few databases to be on the surface of Mars. A fact. One of the robots, and I think it's one of the discoveries or Mars lander, some lander anyway, Interbase is used on it, and that's a fact. Go to the Interbase website and look it up. If you go to a webinar site and go to products, it'll tell you about it. But it is actually used on the surface of Mars. That's pretty cool. Why did they use it? Because it's fault tolerant. That's why. So it's very cool. Use REST and on server use connection to any DPUs and file. Yes, yeah, there you go. So Martin says do it this way. I get it. Okay, so the best database used depends on how your project was described and your critical solutions. So there aren't the best. Yeah, I absolutely agree on that, Junior. I don't think there is a best database because it's the best one for the job. It's like saying, well, every screwdriver is the best one. That's not true. If you've got a flat-bladed screwdriver and your screw looks like that, then that flat-bladed screwdriver, even if it's made out of solid gold and cost you £1,000 or $500 or whatever, or your life savings, that gold screwdriver is absolutely no good for trying to do a screw that's smaller than a flat blade. Likewise, a crossbit screwdriver is not going to be able to turn a screw head like that. Horses for courses, the right tool for the job. I apologise, my dog is making weird sounds in the background. Doug, what is up with you? I don't think you can see her because of this here, but you're down here, bless her. Aren't you? What are you doing? You're making weird noises. Calm down. That's Chloe. I've got 2 dogs. The other one's asleep under the desk. What are the licensing requirements that are Interbase? We distribute applications using MariaDB to our clients. How will we license IB server to our clients? Okay, so confession here. I don't understand the licensing model. I know for if it's a mobile app, then the licensing is straightforward. You get a license file and you deploy it with license. You can either chat to or email the Interbase team, because there's a specialist team that deal with Interbase. They're part of Embarcadero, but they're kind of off to the side doing their own thing. But Marco Cantu also is involved in that team as well. Ask them, because I don't know what the licensing requirements are. It may be that your scenario could be, well, you have multiple clients, and then you get something called an OEM license, I think, or something. I've had this explained to me and I didn't really pay attention. Started to glaze off whilst they were talking numbers, but I believe there's like a VA. No, they don't call it OEM. They call it VAR, Value Added Reseller License. And I believe what happens is that you can distribute umpteen licenses during the course of that period of time. Depending on how that you're setting it up, the license could be one way or another. So have a look and see. Talk to them, Gaza, and see from there. It may be it's not going to suit your requirements. Maybe that Mariah is more in keeping what you need, but the advantages of Interbase are resilience, encryption, and various levels of encryption. Zero maintenance. MariaDB is not quite like that. It is similar, but it's definitely not zero maintenance. So that's it. Right, where? Oh yes, okay. There's a question here. Why aren't there many NoSQL databases for Delphi? Actually, there are. You can connect to MongoDB. Give me a database, and I'll tell you if we can connect to it. It's a simple answer. We can connect to everything, and it's actually something we do. Unlike .NET technology, there's probably nothing that you do in .NET that we can't do or do more. And I'm not saying that like, oh, we're better than yours, because again, it's down to personal preferences. And also circumstances. It may be that for some people a .NET solution is the right solution, but for many others, like zero dependency in deployment of your apps. So you write a Delphi app and there's nothing else to install it will just work. Not true of .NET. You've got to get the right version of .NET runtime. If it's not there, you've got to install it. It could be a gigabyte download. You can run a Delphi app from a thumb drive, and I mean that. I haven't got one here, but a memory stick. You can run it from a memory stick and can connect to a cloud-based or even a server-based system, database system, full power, full speed, no dependencies. You can't do that with .NET. And again, horses are courses, and whatever. Goran says, "Is your dog attacking your video stream?" Well, I get a little indicator up here to say, and it says it's steady, so I can't blame the dog this time. She does occasionally do weird nonsense. Dominic says, "Heck no." Yeah, but there are and he said she stays out of focus. But I say, yeah, in fact, she's out of the way. The smaller one, Nemo. He's asleep completely flat out somewhere, and we have other animals in the house as well. We've got some birds and stuff like that. One day I might do a webinar with a parrot perched on my shoulder and talk like a pirate day or something. Okay, so Rick says now that coding is dead, dead, dead. I've been in the industry for 40 years, Rick, and I've seen everything you can imagine in terms of fashions and fads. AI is not going away. But I remember when object-oriented programming came out, people said, well, that'll be it. Everyone will just slot together programs by drawing them, and that'll be it because everything is object-oriented. No, not true. And I don't believe right now, given the bonfire that it is between the various providers, that any one of them is going to win. Their undoing will be the lack of their ability to all work together. So Gemini, Bing AI slash Open AI slash all the others. The trouble is they have competing business models where they offer some similar feature sets, but they want your money because it's a really expensive thing to do. And that's going to be their undoing. That's what's going to mess it up for us in the future. That it's all about the Benjamins, you know? And in my opinion, that's what's going to be a problem. Now, it may be that one victor emerges from this, and that would be a bad thing because then there's fewer choices. But if someone comes out, you know, there was a Chinese, was it DeepSeek or something like that came out, which would undercut all of them by a massive amount. Funny how the news about that went very quiet all of a sudden because, of course, the search engines are run by the same people that were running the AI. So, I don't know, maybe they were making it so that you wouldn't get the cheap alternative, or maybe not, I don't know. But I don't believe that, yeah, it's going away anytime soon. What else have we got? Thanks, Patrick, to IT AI. In your opinion, what is the best database to interface with relational data and work with AI queries? That's a weird question because there are some new, and I try not to talk about new stuff that's very, very new, like a month old. There are some, I think, here's my take on this. Okay. Writing SQL queries by hand is difficult, and getting them right is even more difficult. You know, getting them optimal and making your database queries work well is optimal is make them work optimally is difficult. And the one thing that I've seen AI do very, very well, because SQL is a standardized dialect in most cases, is write SQL queries for you. So if you say, write me hey AI, write me a SQL query that will select all of the purchases for my customer with the middle name of John between September 1989 and 2022, when you're looking for something, and only show those that have got a gross value of all the detail records more than $1,000, it will come back with a query that probably does that. And it does that better than if you said to it, write me a C# program that does this, or write me a Delphi program that does this, or write me a C++ program. And the reason is that SQL is a very, very narrow dialect of language, and it is a programming language called TIOBE. And it's easier for the large language models to do very, very good job because it's a narrow, what they call a narrow problem domain. And so I think that the tools that are out there now, and Aquadata, which is one of our sister companies, have got a AI-based SQL tool. People like those are going to probably dominate the market very quickly in AI database queries. Now, programming languages, not quite so much. HTML is a lot easier, and CSS and JavaScript's a lot easier to get AI to understand because, again, there are only so many things you can do. But if you look at the examples, most of them are not visual. And that is the bit that's missing, is making your apps look good and function correctly. And many of them do an absolutely dire job of producing code. So I think that AI is going to be a very useful junior programmer, a junior developer to work with you. But for now, at least, and it will quickly go away, but for now, at least, they're still going to need to have a senior developer, and that'll be you, to guide it in a direction that makes sense for you. But AI is not going away. I fully embrace it. I think it's a very exciting new frontier. But things like SQL, yeah, it's I would be very worried if I was a DBA, a database administrator. I'd be really worried because AI is probably going to annihilate that job more quickly than any other coding job, because coders are much bigger. Junior says, congratulations, great explanations. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm sorry if I misunderstood what you were talking about. I didn't want to insult you. Delphi is the solution to .NET. It's a solution to a problem, and I think it does it better than .NET, but I would do, wouldn't I? I work for Embarcadero. Uh, if you want to write an app that doesn't have any dependencies, well, Delphi and RAD Studio is the right way to do it. Why is Delphi easier, faster, more powerful than .NET, even though Microsoft technologies and capabilities are greater than Embarcadero's? Yeah, well, because you're assuming that Microsoft is one entity, and it's not. Microsoft's biggest problem is how successful they are and how big they are. And I say this all the time. You know my email address. You can email me, and I will reply. And that is unusual in a technology company. If you want to complain about Microsoft Windows and say, wow, I really hate the AI in Edge, or I don't want them to change the way Explorer works in Windows, or I think the Windows Start button should be a diamond instead of a square. Who do you email? A genuine question. I tell you, the answer is you don't know, because nobody is the name at the end of that email chain. And often when you are referred to something from Microsoft, and again, I'm not criticizing, they're a great company. I love Microsoft. Um, but often if you ask a query, you're diverted to some forum, and the forum doesn't give the right answer. I don't want Embarcadero to be like that, and we're not like that. And the email addresses and names of the senior product managers, the people who own that product in a technical sense, and you can talk to them and put your case across. But more importantly, you can talk to me and I will respond to you. And I believe that is one of our real differentiators in the industry. That you do not know who to talk to at Microsoft, and I apologize, I keep saying Microsoft because again they're a great company, but right now they don't have somewhere you can go. I don't want Bing AI. There's nobody you can go to about that. They do have very good outreach. Scott Houseman, for example, is the master when it comes to developer relations, way better than me. That's it. We do a similar job, but he's a much more senior guy than me. I'm senior in the company, but they're a big company. They make us look like a little stone on their shoe. But I think that the reason that it's easier, faster, and more powerful to create a Delphi app is just because of the way that we do it. Single source code, and you can create an Android app, iOS app, Mac app, Windows desktop app, and a Linux app, from the same shared code base, maybe with a couple of conditional commands, but from the same shared code base, you can do that. The .NET stuff does do that, but it's not, like they had Xamarin for a long time, which they've kind of deprecated now. I think the choice of XAML was a bad idea, and now I think the problem is the company is really trying to justify the $6 billion they spent on AI. Quite rightly, good gamble. They really wrong-footed Google, but I think that this is getting in the way of things because there's a scramble to try and kind of incorporate that in everything, and not everybody wants to have AI in their IDE all the time. That's why we made our AI IDE AI integration in the IDE turn off by default, but you can turn it on like that. We think that when you're coding and you're sitting in the IDE and you're coding away, we're sitting next to you. And so when we get it wrong, we screw the IDE up, and we do that sometimes. I know. First of all, we want to fix it as quickly as possible. But we also, decisions we make are based on what would we feel like if we were sitting there with you writing that code. If we added AI that took your secrets and trained the AI so that your competitor up the road now knows your secret recipe for how your apps are so successful, we failed you. And it's very difficult at the moment. A lot of other tech companies are not thinking like that. And I think I'm proud of us as a company that that's how we think. We think your technology, your code is the most important thing. It is your secret blend of herbs and spices that make your burgers taste nice. It's the way that you make your Kentucky Fried Chicken crispy chicken taste so good, but in a code sense. And so we're on your side. And I mean that. I mean that. I really mean that. But again, I think that it's just a combination of luck and good judgment that I think genuinely that what we do as a solution in terms of creating apps that are one app and off it goes and it does everything you need with that, and I have a lot of baggage around it and all the rest of it. I think that's good. .NET is very good. It is a great technology. The idea behind it is fantastic. It was based, like the Mono project was a very good thing as well. But I still think that the way we do it with Delphi is better. And a lot of you guys probably think that as well, because that's why you're on this webinar. Yeah, Mac versus Windows again. Actually, I use both. I'm talking to you now on a Windows machine, and I bought the other day at great painful expense, thank God for payments, is a MacBook Air M4. And I am running a Windows VM in Parallels on it, and I'm running Rad Studio 12.3 on it. Rad Studio 12.3 on it, and it runs like a dream. But Apple Macs are the best laptops money can buy. I have a laptop there, which is a HP Envy, good quality Windows laptop, and I used to think that was fast until I plugged in the M4 Mac. Wow, it's fantastic. Vibe coding is technical debt waiting to be paid later. Yeah, vibe coding is a new phrase that's chunked up recently, isn't it? I'm not going to comment on that because it's too early to tell. I've been around in the industry, like I say, for 40 years, and I've seen coding go. When I first started as a COBOL programmer, we were not even allowed to type our programs. This is a fact. For those of you still hanging on the stream, there's a lot of you. We used to have to write our programs out on COBOL coding sheets by hand with a pencil. I think was it a pencil or a pen? I think it was a pencil, and it was a specific type. Anyway, I remember that. I think it might have been a pencil. Write them out, and then we would take the sheets away and give them to a person who would type them in. And the reason was the mini computers that we worked on were so expensive; they only had like 5 or 6 terminals, and a proper typist would type in your program for you. They would then compile the program, and they would bring us back. And I apologize, I sound like a really old man here. It would bring us back what's known as an error stack, and it would show you all the things you'd done wrong. And I was like 18 or 19, so it was a lot. And you would have to then go back, change your coding sheets, and do it. And that's how it was in the COBOL world. About 3 months into that job, they bought a load of serial terminals that look a bit like the thing behind me there, except they weren't flat screen, they were CRTs. And all the young upstarts like me who'd learned to program by typing suddenly outranked the old boys who couldn't type because they'd been writing their code out on paper for years. And we could touch type. I'd learned to type. My mother was a typist. I learned at a very early age, but I programmed on my own computers at home. And that was a sea change where all of a sudden us young guys got promoted, and the old guys, a lot of them gave up or learned to type, and then they were hampered because we were quicker and we had a sudden advantage. But I've seen everything, Windows. I remember Windows being introduced. I remember the first IBM PC and vibe coding, which is this week's flavor, I think is the same thing. It might turn out to be something amazing, and people who don't get it might be in trouble. But I've also seen a few of these things come and go. So let's see how it pans out. I think wait and see. What else have we got? DJ is talking about Firebase framework published by Christoph Schneider. Yes, yeah. Christoph Schneider is MVP. Schneider Technical. He was on our very first webinar in this series, and he took, funnily enough, with an AI project. So if you scroll back and look at the very first of these webinars, the 30 for 30, you'll see a thing about Gemini. And Christoph Schneider is the guy that does that. So Embarcadero developers, yes, that's true. We do dog food our own projects. We use our own projects to create our own projects. That's true. They do have to use some other tools as well for obvious reasons, but because creating a compiler is difficult, but they develop and debug using the things that they're debugging sometimes. So if anyone, oh yes, and Paul says if anyone is having issues with getting Postgres 32 and 64-bit running the ID, let Ian know, and he may forward your email to me as soon as he has time. Yes, I will do. Would Embarcadero accept someone from the third world to invest in developing Delphi by supporting the project with $1 million or $1 billion? First of all, it's Idera who got the money, not Embarcadero. Idera own Embarcadero. And secondly, they are very financially astute. And the first thing they're questioning is, why do you need $1 million? Because imagine if I don't know whether you get, I'm not sure what country you're in, but if you've ever seen these Shark Tank programs, the first thing they'll say is, why should I give you this money? And the pitch that starts those Shark Tank episodes is a demonstration of what you've got so far, a proof of concept and a plan. We want 250,000 to, I don't know, produce, phone cases, for example, or something like that, some other nonsense. And so would Embarcadero accept someone from the third world? What do you call the third world? Because in technology, the third world is not the third world. Leading technologists like Satya Nadella from Google is from the third world. And when you hear him speak, it's quite obvious that he was not brought up in America as such. He's got quite a pronounced accent still that belies the fact that he obviously had an upbringing in a country that was not the United States. Brazil, would you call that a third world? I don't think so. I've been there. I wouldn't say it was third world, but is it a lower economy? Yes. But some of the best Delphi programmers in the world are based in Brazil, India, China, Pakistan, all sorts of countries. And so I've just let my dog out. She's now got up and wishes to leave. Bye-bye. Big dog has left the building. We have a lot of people working from Brazil. So if what you're saying is, would Embarcadero prejudice against anybody who isn't American, I can tell you that in many meetings, I am the only American that is in the meeting. We do a lot of virtual meetings, and I'm the only American. And I know that sounds weird because of my accent, because I'm clearly British, but I'm a British American. That is up there. That is my genuine copy of my American citizenship certificate. I'm an American. But in many meetings, I'm the only American there. So if you mean, a non-American, yeah, of course. We would talk to someone from any country in the world. We do have problems in some countries because we're based in the United States, legally based in the United States, There are US government laws that prevent us dealing with some countries that are on the embargo list. I'm not going to say those countries' names because I don't want to. Our only religion is Delphi, and our only politics are tabs or spaces. That's how I put this across. All wars are horrible. So I'm not going to get involved in that. Most wars that you ever hear about, nobody wins, everybody loses. Certainly the people and the regular people. But if you're trying to say, would Embarcadero deal with someone from the third world? Yes, we do it all the time. Absolutely no problem. I've got zero prejudice against them. And as Dominic says, ask them. Yeah, email me. I put my email address up all the time. If you've got a good idea, ian.barker@embarcadero.com. But don't say you want $1 million or $1 billion because, why? Why a million? Why? And that's a big gap. Why a million or $1 billion? It's like, why not $50? It's like, yeah, that's not a business pitch. That's a gamble. You're punting there. What else have we got? Word. You do have to talk to the AI correctly. Yes, I find shouting at it in a loud monotone really helps. Show me the videos now, something like that. That's the correct way to talk to AI. Yeah, that's funny. As Paul says, once he found Embarcadero, he never looked back. It's all behind you now. Yeah. Will the record of this be? No, you don't need to open the IDE as I showed you, and it's on the welcome page. It will be there automatically. Also, if you just go to YouTube channel, so Embarcadero Tech, just look for our YouTube channel, and all of the replays are on there. But it's always on YouTube immediately, and the IDE is within a few minutes after I finish, so it's there. As Paul says and several others, it's on the YouTube channel. So there you go. It's available on the same URL, yes, as you're watching now. Correct. Yes, you can watch it in LinkedIn. We go out to 11 different channels. I think 13 now, maybe, because I think we do some for Boyan sometimes. Microsoft focuses on their own solutions. Well, you could argue that we do too. But my philosophy is that if we offer the right solutions, people will choose us. If we are the right choice, then people will choose us. I'm not going to tell you to use our stuff. I'm going to show you what it can do. And if you decide that what we can do is better than somebody else and you pick us, great. I won't get any more money. I'll probably keep my job if we don't go bust, but I won't get any extra money. If we suddenly sell, because of this webinar today, if we sell an extra 100,000 copies, which would be insanely good, but if we did, yeah, I mean, people are going to come and pat me on the back and say, "Good God, what did you say?" Like, they're going to be pleased, but I won't get any extra money. I mean, I would probably use it to negotiate a pay rise or something, but won't get any extra money. But that's the same with Microsoft. If Microsoft is your better choice, then you should choose it. But I think it's not the better choice, and I demonstrate in the webinars why I don't think so. And I try and be fair about it. I think that when you hear me talk and you see me on this webinar, I do not use a script. The slides are kind of a script, but I don't use a script. And the reason I don't use a script is I want there to be zero gap between my head, my beliefs, and you guys. And I don't want to sound like I'm not being genuine, because I think I am. If I don't like a feature, I tend not to talk about it. If the company tell me to talk about a feature and I think it's sucky, then I'll tell them, and then they will go away and look at what's wrong with it and work on it. But generally speaking, I that's not how it works. I am always been a Delphi developer since the very first day it came out. I loved the product long before I worked for Embarcadero. So and I'm sure there are people at Microsoft who feel the same way. They look at our stuff and go, no, it's much better our way. Great. Good for them. But I think they're wrong. I think they're wrong. And I showed you in a demo today, MySQL and Interbase, our Interbase and MySQL, completely free solution. I could have put, Postgres up there or one of the others. But it was just easier to do it with Interbase and MySQL because other database are. Good choice since it can use HMI. I meant the AI fight. Yes, exactly. I understand. Yeah. That cycle was the reason I didn't pursue a career in IT in the 1970s. Very frustrating. Yeah, well, I remember, I've said this in a previous webinar. I remember the day I decided I was going to be a software developer. I was in physics, in a physics lesson. It's very boring. And we had two computers in the school because I'm that old. I went to school in the 70s. And we were not allowed to touch the one computer that was in the corner of the physics lab. And in those days, you had to stand up when the teacher came in. They don't do that kind of thing anymore. And you were not allowed to address them by their first name. You called them Mr. whatever. And they used to have a meter rule or yardstick, actually. And they would slap you on the knuckles and things like that. And I was sitting in physics one day, and this computer was in the corner. It was hand built. They built it from scratch with microchips and that. And this kid burst into the room. He didn't even knock. And he walked past the teacher and went, right, which is like completely rude. And he went up to the computer and all like, he's touching the school computer. And he turned it on. And in those days, he used to warm up. And the monitor was like almost like an oscilloscope, warmed up, and we're all like, and I'm looking at this thinking, oh, this is incredible. And he goes like that, and I remember he had a tweed jacket. I'm not making this up. He had a tweed jacket with elbow patches on. He was a very old-fashioned, nerdy guy. Glasses. Ches Penkovsky was his name. Ches, if you ever see this, thank you, because you are the inspiration of why I got into software development. And he sat there and he went, typed a load of stuff, and the screen just went, the whole bunch of program code and text on the screen. And I saw it, and I thought, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. I want to do that. And I do. I get paid for it every day. How lucky am I? I was 14. And I always knew this one. I've done other things. I've been a DJ, a few other things as well. But yeah, it's great to get and do the job. Yeah, Martin says I'm glad to take that billion. Martin, if there's a billion on offer, I'm first in the queue, okay? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Brazilian have million or billion for this. Oh, really? Yeah, I've heard this before. And isn't it Danish that has weird counting systems as well, like 14 20s and a 7 plus 8? Something weird like that. Nah. What's the most economical way to implement data encryption at rest in a mobile database? Use Interbase. The other way is you can, it depends on the database whether it supports encryption. And the other thing you can do is actually encrypt the data as you read it and write it. But there are risks with that. I think just look at what's available. But Interbase does it. I don't even know how, actually. It just now SQLite does it, but you have to pay for a license for the external DLL. Whereas Interbase does it out of the box, but it's the licensed version, not the free version. I'd take the $50. I'm Brazilian. I said it, and I said impossible. That yeah, exactly. Yes, correct. They SQLite used to have encryption. It still does have encryption, but it's an add-on. I don't blame them. There are billions of people that use SQLite around the world, and I bet you they never get a penny for any of it, which is a shame. What incentive is it for them to keep working on it unless they're using it in their own projects? But the encryption was a routine. Now, encryption is tricky because there are American restrictions on distributing these things around. And there's some countries where you can't distribute it, so there may be an overhead for them, which may be why they charge. It could be that by charging they can vet the company is from a specific place. I'm guessing, I don't know, but yeah, it's Interbase does it, but you do have to have a licensed version, so not a free version. SQLite encryption is an option. You can use the FD edition. Random question: is there a preferred location for projects on your PC? Actually, I have a Nigel. I have a folder called VMS underscore source, and that's because I used to develop in a VM all the time. But I would recommend, yes, you have a specific location. Short path name is good, um, but it's up to you. And use Git or Subversion, and then store your stuff in the cloud. I live in Tornado Alley. I could lose my house at any moment to a tornado. It happens all the time. And so I need to know that my backups are in the cloud. And that's why I use Git, but I also share with other people. So, what regard to the restrictions on admin? Again, you can store it on a network drive as long as it's backed up, but it's it is what it is. But you've got to be careful about people restoring backups on networks and overwriting your data because that is a pain. Generally speaking, I would use GitHub and store your code locally, push it up to GitHub or push it to a local Git instance on your server. You can do the same with Subversion as well and other technologies. So, Microsoft have SourceSafe, which they no longer push, which is interesting. You do you use it installer your projects, or was it for your own? Okay, yeah. I would always have yeah, there's a little whole conversation going on there. I would always store my projects locally, and then push up to GitHub. That's how I do it. I dislike the mad. Yes, me too. Use projects folder. Yeah, the problem with the projects folder is when you upgrade Windows, sometimes if it's stored in a certain place, you can end up with losing it. If you change your computer username, it disappears. So just be careful. That's what I would say. I prefer to use a path out of that whole virtualized folder system. And new versions of Windows are coming out that you don't even have Windows installed on your machine. That's bizarre. Like VDIs and things like that. Are there known different levels of access dependent on path? Yeah, it's kind of getting into an esoteric description of password protection and stuff. Yes, group policies on networks can change the different levels of access. So that could be access by Windows. Yes, because if you have a network where they have a group policy, they can actually make it so your documents folder is on a server, someone you'll never know. You think it's local, but it's not. It's stored on, some volume out there on a SAN or something like that, SanDisk. So yeah, be careful about what you're doing. But if it's your own work, then I would store it locally and be pushing it up to GitHub regularly. That's what I would do. Thank you for a wonderful. Thank you, Dominic. I appreciate. I think I've seen your name before, but I appreciate you coming along and saying that. It does help when people say they like it. You don't have to. It's optional, but it's cool. I mean, some people hate it and say so. I miss the ability to use SSH in FireMonkey. Mm. I'm not quite sure what you mean there. Do you mean FireDAC? Because you can use SSH. So I'm not quite sure all that. Email me about that, and I'll see. Great. Almost what we talked about by email regarding Firebird versus Interbase. Yes, we did. Yes, Fabio, I remember you. I get so many emails, but some people's names stick out, and yours is one of them. So thanks for your emails, by the way. Really appreciate it. And I do genuinely answer every single one of them. I know it seems weird, but I'm coming back to Delphi after 28 years. Hooray! Hello, welcome back. Where have you been? You've been out in the wilds. I'm glad to see this database webinar and Q&A session. By the way, I still have my COBOL ruler from College COBOL. There's Area A and Area B. Bless you. Yeah, I remember that. Janky, yes. Oh, good old COBOL. I liked COBOL. And it's still around. There's an object-oriented version of COBOL as well. But Ryan McFarlane was the one I used the most. But there's others. I mean, I kissed COBOL and a few others as well. Delphi on the future. Object Pascal never misses AI. Quantic computer. Wait for us. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. I totally agree. And everybody, thanks for chatting. Very good. Got to get to work now. See you next time. Yes. I have the advantage this is my work, so I don't have to. Thanks, Ian Patrick Markin, and great presentation. Thank you. Yes, appreciate everybody. So I will see you again on Friday. If you've got a really good project in written in Delphi that you want to talk about and you want someone to show it to the public, email me before Friday, and I may feature your project on there. We've got a number of projects, but I want to try and increase the number of people that go, Delphi, I don't believe anybody's using that. Well, I'm going to show you different. We're going to show you all sorts of projects that we can, and also talk about, have a good laugh about Skype, which used to be written in Delphi, and then they swapped over to .NET, and then all of a sudden it all went horribly wrong, didn't it? And they just got rid of Skype. So maybe they should have stuck with Delphi and then still be around, but I don't know. Things evolve. I'm joking. I'm sure they would find a good reason to be gone as well. Thank you, Boyne. Yes, thank you, Boyne. And Boyne, your webinar is up to 2,000 views so far. So, my friend, people are interested in what you've got to say, and I'm really pleased. And we're going to do some more. And bon appetit. Yes, thank you. As you know, it's my lunchtime now. So, okay, everybody. I will see you on Friday. Well, it's a fairly relaxed chat about Delphi projects and talk about some things that are written in Delphi and things that aren't written in Delphi. Heidi SQL will be one of them. And I will see you then on Friday. But until then, thanks very much. And I'll see you soon. Thank you. Yes, thank you too. Patrick. Au revoir, Patrick. À tout à l'heure. Thanks, Junior. Yes, rest in peace, Skype. Yeah, it was saying. Miguel, thank you, Miguel. And